Hello everybody and welcome to another edition of In Pit Lane here on Channel 31 Melbourne, Channel 44 Adelaide and of course the In Pit Lane YouTube channel. Well, joining us tonight is a friend of the show going back many years, back to when he was, I think he was probably only about 14 when he first came on the program. That's Thomas Randle. Thomas was on about this time last year, so we thought we'd catch up a year later. Lots happened with him over the past 12 months. I mean, lots happened with all of us over the past 12 months, but this weekend he's going to be back in action again with the Dunlop Super 2 series up at Sydney Motorsport Park. And of course, like all of the supercar drivers and everybody involved in the sport, he's had to make that last minute rush up to New South Wales, the escape across the border. So we'll be asking him about that a little bit later on in the program. But of course, motor racing is happening not just in Australia, but right around the world. We've had Formula One, we've had NASCAR, we've had NHRA has returned as well. Let's find out about what's been happening around the world of motorsport with the In Pit Lane Motorsport News. In Formula One, the Mercedes juggernaut rolled on, with Lewis Hamilton returning to the top step of the podium at the Styrian Grand Prix at the Red Bull Ring in Austria. Opening race winner and Hamilton's teammate Valtteri Bottas chased down and passed Red Bull driver Max Verstappen with 5 laps to the checkered flag. It was another bad weekend for Ferrari as Charles Leclerc's overly ambitious move up the inside of Turn 3 took out his teammate Sebastian Vettel on lap 1. Scott Dixon made it 3 in a row, taking out the first leg of the IndyCar doubleheader at Road America. The New Zealand driver got the jump on Australia's Will Power after the Team Penske driver suffered another delayed pit stop after a small hiccup on the right rear air jack. Rookie Alex Palou was third in his best IndyCar result so far. Sunday saw a debut win to Felix Rosenqvist after a great late race dice with Pato O'Ward. O'Ward had started from pole and looked set for victory until his tyres went off late in the race. Alexander Rossi was third. The race started on a controversial note after contact between Graham Rahal, Ryan Hunter-Reay and Will Power. Rahal and Hunter-Reay were both put out of contention. Officials sent Power to the back of the grid at the restart. He eventually finished in 11th place. And another rookie win, this time in NASCAR, as 22-year-old Cole Custer made a great late race restart to round up veterans Martin Truex Jr., Kevin Harvick and Ryan Blaney for his maiden Cup Series victory. Truex finished second with Matt DiBenedetto storming through to take third place. And NHRA Drag Racing returned last weekend with the NHRA Nationals at Indianapolis. Billy Torrens powered his way to the top fuel title with a win over Doug Kalitta in a closely run final. Matt Hagan drove to his first win of the season in funny car, beating Don Schumacher Racing teammate Tommy Johnson Jr. in the final. And in the battle of retiring pro stock drivers, Jason Line knocked off number 2 qualifier Jeg Coughlin in a thrilling final round. The win gave Line an impressive 17 consecutive seasons with a victory. And that's a very quick In Pit Lane Motorsport News. We'll have more news next week. Well, our guest is back in action this weekend at Sydney Motorsport Park. He's Thomas Randle, and of course he'll be in the Dunlop Super 2 series. And Thomas, like everybody, has been very, very keen to get back behind the wheels, but like most people in Victoria, he's had to flee the plague-ridden streets of Melbourne to find shelter in somewhere in New South Wales or wherever he is. So let's find out where he is. Thomas Randle, thanks for joining us once again on In Pit Lane. And where do we find you this evening?
Yeah, hey Brett. Look, I probably should be running a VPN because I don't think anyone else wants any Victorian where they are. So I could just tell you I'm in some bunker underground somewhere and keep it all under wraps. But no, I'm actually staying with one of my sponsors in the ACT. So you could say I'm seeking refuge there, but no, it's really good. He's been really good to me, and we've got to head to the track for another COVID test on Wednesday. So last Wednesday we had to do a COVID test at the circuit, and we have to pass 2 COVID tests before getting on track. So there's a lot of rules that we need to abide by, and we had to get out of the state. Well, Victorians and especially Melburnians had to get out of there last Monday, so that was a rather intense experience to say the least.
Yeah, tell us about what happened there. I mean, we had a story last week, a bit of a look behind the scenes with Andre Heimgartner and the guys from Kelly Racing. I mean, how much notice did you get? When did you first find out? How did it all happen?
So originally, we were actually scheduled to go to Winton on the Tuesday to test. That was meant to be we hadn't driven the car since Adelaide back in the end of February, and we had the test day planned. Jade was going to come down. My teammate Zach Best was going to go there, and yeah, we were all ready for that. The drop gears were in the car for Winton. Setup was in for Winton, and I was actually speaking to my dad on the Sunday night, saying, "Oh, do you think we should go up the night before, stay in Benalla, or do you think we'll just go up on the Tuesday?" And then the plan after that was to, get ready for the race the following week and just drive up probably on the Thursday or something of the race, which is in 3 days' time from now. Anyway, we wake up on Monday morning and sort of hear the rumours that they might shut the borders. And then I think it was about quarter to 11 in the morning, Dan Andrews had announced that they're shutting the borders. And I think it's been 101 years or something. I think it's 1919 when the Spanish flu had hit the world. That's when they last shut the borders between Victoria and New South Wales. And yeah, at that moment I thought, well, there's no way Super 2 is going to run because the main focus would be supercars. And even I was very hesitant to think, oh, they're going to run that. So at that point, I just assumed, there's no chance. Like, how the heck are they going to get us out of there? And then the news kind of went from bad to worse when they said, actually, anyone from Melbourne or Greater Melbourne has to get out tonight. So I thought, okay, great. So I was in constant contact with my team boss, Matt White, and also the guy I'm staying with at the moment, Angelo Turkson. And yeah, we were like, are we going to do it? And we thought, well, I think we kind of have to do it because it's the only chance we've got. And originally they were actually talking about bringing the event forward a week, so it actually happened on the weekend just past. But apparently that wasn't an option. Maybe the lights, because they're going to be running under lights, maybe they couldn't get those lights ready. So yeah, we were told basically we're going to have to be here for like 10 days before the race meeting. And we've just been trying to find things to do. But yeah, I was at Matt's workshop at the race team about 4:30 in the afternoon, and we got fully loaded by 5. And then I went home, packed my bags, and I left home by about 6:30 and crossed the border around 10:30. Stayed with a relative in Albury Monday night. Stayed in Canberra Tuesday night, and then went up to Sydney for a couple of days. The team did test day on the Thursday and Friday at the track, and then since then I've been here in Canberra, and it's hasn't been too bad. I'm not really that keen on going back to Victoria anytime soon, Brett.
Yeah, well, I was going to ask that. I mean, everybody's here is in lockdown, obviously, for basically another 5 weeks now. I mean, so are you just assuming that you're going to be out of Victoria for that period of time, at least that 5 weeks?
Well, our next round is meant to be Sandown in, I believe, middle of September. That was meant to be the next round, which that was the round they were tossing up whether they were going to have an enduro or not, but it doesn't look like to be the case. But that's going to be interesting to see if that round goes ahead, because this lockdown's for 6 weeks. So that kind of puts you to around, end of August, maybe start of September. So I'm really not sure what's going to happen there. I know supercars are looking at doing a double header in Darwin, and then I think shooting off to Townsville after this. So we haven't really been told what the plan is for Super 2. I don't know whether or not they want us to join them at one of those events, because, I mean, if we're all here, really it's the best place to be. But like I said, I don't really know what's going to happen. I mean, I just heard on the news before that they're looking at potentially locking down New South Wales. So I'm really a bit unsure at the moment, as I'm sure everyone else is. I mean, it's such a fluid situation.
As we said last week, we spoke with Craig Denyer about TA2 last week, and I said to him at the time, by the time this goes to air on Friday night, everything might have changed again. Well, sure enough, within an hour of us finishing the interview, everything had changed again. So it's very hard to it's very hard to make any plans at the moment. Look, stay there for a moment. We're going to take a break now on In Pit Lane, but when we come back, we're going to be finding out more about the adventures of Thomas Randle interstate and his plans for the rest of the year and for the future. But until we come back, you're watching In Pit Lane. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Welcome back to In Pit Lane. Well, I guess tonight is Dunlop Super 2 racer Thomas Randle. And Thomas, you mentioned about the mad rush up the highway and escaping Melbourne. But I mean, it's a difficult year, and for all of us. I mean, we've all had problems, but you've got other things to worry about as well. You've just set up a business, and I suppose the one thing that came out of this whole lockdown thing has been the rise of sim racing, and you've sort of transitioned that into a new business. Tell us a bit about that.
Correct. It's been, a year of my first business, and so far it's going really well. I mean, now with the new restrictions, it's sort of taking a twist the other way, but that's okay. I mean, it was kind of expected, but no, it's been fantastic. I mean, it's something I've been working towards for probably about 3.5 years. When I used to race in the UK in Formula 3, I noticed there was quite a big market over there, driver training businesses using simulation. And I've always had an interest in simulators. I mean, my first simulator was probably 2011. And I just had to make sure that I could get it as professional as possible and put myself in the client's shoes and think, okay, well, if I was coming here to pay to use a simulator, what would I want? And I mean, it's in a semi-adiabatic chamber. I mean, it's got full soundproof around the room. All the hardware is state of the art, really the latest gear. It's bolted to a 6 degrees of freedom motion platform that's made by CCAS. The sim rig is a hybrid racing simulation rig, and that includes the steering wheel. The actual steering system is a direct drive system made by SimuCube. It's got a Jinx shifter, which is like a supercar shifter, and it also has front and rear anti-roll bar adjusters. It's got a brake bias slider. It's got 3 curved monitors, and then behind all that is where I sit, and that's where I've got 3 screens and I can see what the driver's seeing. I've got live telemetry, Motec, and I've even got an intercom system, so I can pretty much talk to the driver at any time. And because I've got the live data, I can, as soon as they do a corner, I can just tell them straight away, okay, we can work on the brakes on the entry, or it might be, okay, we can do a better job with the throttle. So it sort of speeds up that process. I mean, I know it's never going to be one-to-one like the real thing, but in terms of muscle memory and understanding the techniques of driving a racing car, it's pretty much all there. I mean, like I said to you at the beginning of the show, we had a test day, or the team had a test day, and I was allowed to do 10 laps because I'm not a rookie. They allowed me to do 10 laps in my teammate's car. So my car didn't drive, but I got to do 10 laps, and it was amazing how close it actually felt to the simulator, because I've been doing a fair few laps around City Motorsport Park in a supercar on the simulator. And yeah, it was actually incredible. I thought, wow, this is surprisingly really close.
So if people out there are thinking about it, I mean, is it just for sort of really hardcore young guys like yourself who are looking for a career, or is it something that you could say a businessman or somebody just that they want to go racing but they can't really afford the time or the money, or they don't have the resources to actually get behind the wheel of a real car? Can they just come out and spend time with you and just do that basically in lieu of actually racing?
Exactly, absolutely, and that's the whole point of it. I mean, I've actually just, as of a couple of days ago, one of my packages is now on Red Balloon, which is really good, and it's going to be on Adrenaline soon. But I've just been working towards getting that set up. I'm going to eventually have all the different packages on there. So it sort of begins from a half an hour session where you just choose whatever car and track you want to go on, and I'll just leave you to it. We give you an induction on how it works and stuff like that. But it really ranges from anyone, Brett. So if it's someone who has never driven a racing car before, may never be able to drive a racing car, just your average punter who likes what they see, enjoys the sport, or someone who might have watched the E-Series and thought, wow, okay, I'd love to just have a go at that, but I don't have a simulator. I don't know how to set one up. So it's really made for anyone. And, from that low end of, your average punter, up to the high end of other supercars drivers or Super 2, Super 3, just to improve their craft and work on, it might be consistency, might be technique, might be right foot braking, left foot braking. There's a lot of different things that you can learn, or even race craft, because we can set up race scenarios and all that sort of stuff. So the sky's the limit, really. And the best thing is that You got unlimited tyre sets, unlimited fuel, and don't have to pay for crash damage.
Yes, and you don't get hurt. Although I'd probably find a way of getting hurt if I got into it, but no doubt. The other thing, of course, that we need to touch on before we go is, of course, we were on the program last year, and it wasn't that long after that you announced that you had been diagnosed with testicular cancer. And so the first question is, how are you at the moment, and how is this sort of this current environment has that complicated things any in terms of your treatment or put you at any extra risk?
Well, at the moment, it's funny because I feel healthy. Like I wouldn't know any different, and it's weird to look back and think that only well, I'm just looking at the calendar there. Really, in 2 days' time, it will have been 6 months since I had my operation to remove the tumor. So yeah, one man down, but that's okay. The other one's holding up pretty well. But since then, it's just been monitoring everything else, because they got to make sure that it hasn't spread anywhere else. And after they did the histopathology of the tumor, that's when they knew what it was. And there's 2 different types of testicular cancer. There's a non-seminoma and a seminoma. And non-seminoma is more common for my age area, and it's more rapidly growing. It's faster growing. But the best thing about this type of cancer is that it's highly curable. And at the moment, all my blood levels are normal, but there's just one spot on the scans. So for this sort of cancer, you got to do CT scans. That's the only thing that brings it up, where a PET scan doesn't benefit at all. It's really just CT scans. So I've been getting those regularly, and there's just been really one lymph node, which they're keeping an eye on, that's sort of causing a little bit of grief. So it's a bit frustrating, because I just try and keep as busy as I can. I mean, I'm at university as well, so I was pretty occupied with that in the first semester, and then setting up a business. But as much as you try and keep busy, you always end up getting back to that topic, and it is taxing, you could say. And at the moment, I've just got to kind of mentally prepare myself that I'm probably going to have to do some form of treatment. It's not really it's not really ideal, but there's a lot of people that are in a worse position. I mean, the fact that I guess mine is quite an early stage. I mean, it's not early enough that I don't need treatment. I may not, but from what they've been telling me, that they think I probably will have to in the near future. But at the moment, we're just monitoring this one lymph node, and we'll see. My next scan's in a couple of months, and that'll sort of be the defining factor of when or if we have to start, and could mean the rest of the year is put on hold. But I think we've just got to play it week by week at the moment. And at the moment, this week we've got a race coming up, which I'm really excited for, and it's great to get the Sky Sands Nissan back out there, and all the other sponsors and supporters are on the car, and just to be able to drive a racing car again. I mean, that was that was one of the best things about being in Adelaide. It was only probably about 5 weeks after the operation, and got to race at Adelaide, and to get pole there and a win in a couple of seconds was really cool, because didn't really get to do much training in the off season. It was a very different off season to what I've normally had, and certainly puts things in perspective, Brett. I mean, if you got your health, it's really important. We sort of take that for granted.
I can, believe it or not, I can remember when I was your age, and you do feel invincible. I mean, and even at my age, some of us are silly enough to try and think that we still are. But as you say, it's sometimes you get these jolts, but the main thing is you've got the best people sort of treating it, and you've got it early. So in that respect, I suppose you've been very lucky, because if it hadn't have shown up, I mean, you could be blissfully unaware of it. 2 or 3 years down the track, it could be too late.
But and that's one of the main things that I want to. That's one of the main reasons why I went public with it, because, well, I think if it was something that was on your arm or I don't know, your neck, you'd probably feel more comfortable to go and tell someone about it. But when it's in your manly area, you kind of feel embarrassed in a way, I think, and the first time I actually noticed the issue was at Newcastle in 2019, and I left it for about 5 weeks because I thought, oh, maybe it was one of the belts got caught, and it happens. It's happened to a lot of male race drivers over the time, and it bloody hurts. But normally the pain goes away. But in this case, it didn't really go away, and I just assumed, oh, maybe it's bruising. So I left it for about 5 weeks, and then, I just thought, you know what, I've got to build up the courage to go and see someone about this because this can't be right. And as much as you Google it, until you actually go and get it checked, it's you don't know for sure. And that's kind of the biggest message I'm trying to spread or tried to spread to young guys is that, well, really any guy, is that this is the most common cancer for guys around this age area from about 18 to 35. This is the most common cancer. And I didn't even know about it, Brett. I mean, I know other people have had it. Lance Armstrong had it really bad. There was a Red Bull driver, Dean Stoneman. He had testicular cancer, Red Bull driver, and he was one step off reaching Formula One, and he had it stage 4, and he's fine now. So there's a lot of good stories out there for guys who have had this, and I mean, I've had a lot of messages over the last 6 months from guys who have spoken out and said, "Hey, look, just wondering, how did you know something was wrong? Because I can kind of feel something doesn't feel right." And then they come back a couple of days later and say, "Oh, I went and got checked out and turns out it's this," and we're all good. So, hey, if I can save a life, then I feel like I've done my part.
Yeah, and that's the thing, as you say. I mean, with women, we're always saying to women of all ages, get the mammograms, check your breasts regularly. But it's, even though you sort of hear about it, as you say, it's not something that we as guys sort of do. I mean, we're loath to go to the doctors at the best of times, let alone, as you say, when there's something something down there. So it's a really good lesson for anybody out there to be thinking about it. Just check yourself. Just check yourself every now and again. If something feels a bit a bit off and a bit like you're not too sure about, don't be embarrassed. That's what doctors are for. They train for years and they get bloody good money to be in. So even if you do embarrass them, it's doesn't matter. I mean, that's what they're there for.
But there's a good saying. They say you should check once a month, and if it feels like the front of your nose, you're all good when you're pressing your nose. But if it feels like when you're pressing your forehead, then you better go get it checked. That's what they told me. So that's probably the easiest way to know if something's good or something's not good. So.
Well, let's hope that it all goes well from there. I mean, you've had the main operation at this stage, and let's hope that's let's hope at least there's a start. And you've as you said, this weekend you've got things you've got to concentrate on getting behind the wheel again. And as you said, that's what your focus is this weekend. And we'll all be watching over the weekend. So good luck with everything at Sydney Motorsport Park, and hopefully within the next few weeks you'll know what's happening with the rest of the year as well. But for the moment, good luck for the weekend and for the future. For now, Thomas Randle, thanks for joining us in Pit Lane.
Thank you. I hope everyone enjoys the race this weekend.
Well, thanks to Thomas Randle, and we wish him all the very best of luck, of course, this weekend, but of course in his ongoing battle with his current health conditions. And remember, I mean, what he says makes an awful lot of sense. It's very easy to put off stuff, and look, it's very much a case of do as I say, don't do as I do, because I think all of us guys have got reasons to go to the doctor a bit more often, and we simply don't do it enough. So if you've got any concerns at all, check yourself out, and if you've got any concerns at all, go to your local doctor and just get things checked over, because obviously the sooner they get hold of these things, the sooner the treatment can start and the more success there is of a successful outcome. So thanks for joining us this week, and hopefully we'll join you again next week on the program. We'll catch up with basically what happened at Sydney Motorsport Park over the weekend. Hopefully some good news. Keep our fingers crossed for Thomas in the Dunlop Super 2 series, and of course we'll tell you all that's been happening in the supercars. Formula One in IndyCar continues. It's just rolling on one way or another. We might as well make the best of this while all this motorsport is happening. We might as well make the best of it, because as we well know in Melbourne, it could stop at any time. So until we see you again next week on the program, from all of us here at In Pit Lane, it's thanks for joining us and bye for now. Thanks for watching. If you'd like to see more great Aussie motorsport news and interviews from Australia's longest running motorsport show, then please like and subscribe to the In Pit Lane YouTube channel.